Hello, I'm Jack, and welcome to Neutron One.
And I'm Stuart. Welcome to this little intro to our latest free profile pack that we should be giving away and hopefully showing you some new stuff that we're up to, things that are coming soon, a little preview in here of a new thing that we're doing with speaker simulation and profiles of a super cool amp that has been here in the studio for a long time and I think you're going to have some fun with. So we're going to start off just by talking a little bit about the amp that we've profiled here. It's an old, 10 years old at least, I guess. Started off life as a standard Bugera 333 XL, which, as some of you probably know, was kind of taken from the PV JSX, the Satriani signature amp, kind of very similar circuit, if not the same. With a few extra fun things like their Infinium auto biasing tech, which is super cool. And then over probably 10 years or so, I've had it modified, tweaked, and played around with more than one amp tech till it got to kind of my kind of ideal all-in-one amp that I can use for almost anything. So the 3 channels in it have been changed to kind of reflect a super versatile, clean channel, a kind of more classic crunch, I guess like maybe in the old Marshall sense, crunch type sound for the crunch channel, and then the lead, which is more of a modern, Soldano, Mesa Boogie, dual rectifier style channel. It doesn't sound anything like a stock one, so I wouldn't expect if you own one of these for you to recognize necessarily the sound. As I said, it's been modified multiple times by multiple people over quite a long period of time, but it's one of my favorite amps, and we thought it would be super fun to profile it for you and to maybe demonstrate some different ways of using those profiles that are a little bit different to what you would normally expect from a standard, snapshot type profile. So we're going to get into just showing you the basic sounds of the 3 channels first, and then I'll run through and play some other examples and talk about what's going on with those sounds and the way that I've got the thing set. One thing that you'll probably notice straight off the bat is that there are 2 profiles running at the same time, 2 NAMM profiles running at the same time, and that's because one of them is the amp and the other one is our new quantum speaker. So this is a product that's coming soon. It's going to be a fully developed pack with all different microphone positions and all kinds of fun extras in it that will allow you to recreate the recording session as it would be with microphones on a cabinet. Loads of mics, loads of positions, some other kind of extra stuff as well. This is just a composite file of a few microphones combined that is a kind of, I guess, middle ground between bright and dark, and it gives you a great place to begin where you can then use the EQ to kind of take it to where you want to go. And you'll see in the demonstration as we go through the different examples some fairly radical shifts from bright to not so bright, bassy and thick sounding and all kinds of different stuff. Just using the EQ in NAMM to shape the sound. Obviously with the finished pack, when you get the actual quantum speaker pack when that comes out, you're going to have very bright microphone positions, you're going to have darker ones, you're going to have room mics, you're going to have all sorts of stuff. But for this demonstration, it's just a kind of a pre-combined set of a few mics to give you all the sonic territory in one that you can then play with and understand a little bit about what makes this totally different to impulse responses if you're used to using those. For a start, this is a non-linear profile, which means it's more like more like an amp profile than an impulse response, but then also will behave exactly like a real speaker and real microphone would. It has a gain control that will basically proxy for you the volume that the speaker is running at. So turning the input gain up on this will effectively turn up the volume of the speaker and change its behavior accordingly. And you'll see that happen in some of the sounds as we go through and demo them. There are some where the speaker is very loud. There's some where it's not particularly loud. So all of that stuff we'll kind of explain as we go along.
So get down a notepad.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of change here, and you're going to see some stuff
There is good news. There is good news. I mean, compared to a standard impulse response pack, here we're talking about one profile, and you're going to see some real drastic difference through all of the sounds that we play that one profile can provide because of its non-linear nature. It is a simulation of a speaker, not a snapshot like an IR. So it does have versatility and will let you create a whole ton of different sounds, even just with this one single profile. And for the amp, in the same way, because of the way that it's been created, we only have one profile of each channel, that's all. And you're going to hear some wacky differences between these sounds, considering there's just one profile of the clean channel, one of the crunch and one of the lead channel. Again, not really what you're used to with amp profile packs. Normally there are hundreds of them, all with different settings. The way that I've created this one, it's kind of naturalized with the EQ in Neural Amp Modeler. By that I mean I've created the profiles so that the position with all the EQ settings on Neural Amp Modeler in the middle, it's kind of a neutral sound, which then allows you to use that EQ on the plugin like it was effectively the EQ on an amp. And since none of you are going to own this amp because it's unique, and I can't even remember the mods that have been done to it, so I can't even tell you what they are, it doesn't really matter that the EQ on Neural Amp Modeler isn't exactly the same as the amp. It is a post-amp EQ though, so it's going to do similar things. And certainly it's got plenty of range that you can take it almost in any direction you want, as we'll show when we go through and play some of these sounds. So first thing I want to do, just going to play you the 3 presets that are included in the free pack that you get. You get an amp profile for each channel. You get one quantum speaker combined profile that has kind of a really good in the middle sound that you can then use the EQ to shape. But you also, for each of the 3 channels, clean, crunch and lead, get a effect preset that you can load up into Convology XT that you'll be familiar with if you've seen any of our producer series packs. They all come with these effects presets, so we figured it would be fun to include those effects, just as well as a kind of bonus, so that you can have some ambience, a bit of reverb, a bit of chorus, all that kind of stuff. And so those are included as well in the free pack. And obviously with the demos that I'm doing of sounds that are not the included presets, I'm only using the contents of the pack. So there's nothing you're going to hear that has any effects or plugins or anything else on it that are not included in this free pack. So it's all stuff that you'll get. And if you watch the screen as we go through, you'll see what these 2 plugins are doing together and how they're working in tandem to create the different sounds. As you'll see, some of them the speaker is loud, some of them it's not so loud. The EQ is going to be working on each of these. It will behave differently on each one, bear in mind. These are very different sounds. The EQ on the amp and the EQ on the speaker, changing them does not result in the same change. So you kind of get different ranges of control by combining EQ on both of them. Anyway, enough talking. Let's play a couple of sounds. So we'll start off with a clean channel, and this is the preset you get in the pack with its effect preset as well. It's just a nice kind of neutral clean channel, great for pedals. There you go. Nice clean sound. I will turn the chorus off just so you can hear it without, because I'm sure that some of you would be curious. Nice clean sound. Very clean. There is a little trick with this though, which is a little bit, again, different to maybe what you see on most profiles. Because of the way that Neural Amp Modeler works and its cleverness, I've actually included compression in this sound. So there's a compressor pedal before this amp that you aren't hearing at the moment because its threshold is set very high. In fact, if you put the input gain right down, then it will be completely gone. So that's just the amp channel, the compression won't be there at all. But as I start to turn the input level up, it's going to hit the threshold of the compressor. And at that point, you'll hear it starts to sound very compressed. I'm up a bit. It's a bit quiet. So you can probably hear that it's got quite a little bit of compression going on now, a bit of noise as well. Let's turn this up a bit. You can go pretty crazy with it because there's not really any gain on this channel at all. So you can even get into sort of plus 16, plus 20 even. It's going to add a little bit of hair, and I'll show you some more kind of bluesy sounds in a minute where we really push that hard with the speaker as well to create speaker distortion. But it's, you know, it's quite compressed at this point. Oh, demands chorus. You get the idea? 80s vibes. So the input, it's not a gain control on this clean channel, it's the compression, the compression amount. You can take it right from none at -20. Just make sure you compensate with the output volume. As you turn this down, this will get quiet, so you turn this up, usually by roughly the same amount. So you can have no compression. If you turn it all the way down, no volume either. Turn it all the way up, there we go. Again, you want to try and get it so that it's kind of the same volume when you've turned it down, if you know what I mean. It's a bit loud. So there's no compression there at all. You go up to about plus 10, then it's going to be pretty clean, but quite compressed.
It's just that subtle little change. You can hear how many songs just from that compression on the front that fits into.
And because we can, we'll include that.
Yeah.
So you can have a little play, gives you a little extra
smooth,
an extra dimension to your clean channel. You can have some fun with that.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got the EQ as well, which is just exactly what you would expect.
And the thing is, as well, you're getting all of this when you're playing right at the beginning. You're not having to experience all of this at the end and like going through getting your music to the thing. It's quite unique.
And again, we're trying to. You probably realise what we're trying to get across is this idea: you don't need 100 profiles of an amp. If it's been done well and it's been made with purpose, one profile of a channel is much more versatile than you might think, and it can really help you get away from the kind of choice paralysis of having a folder full of, you know, 100 different profiles of the same amp channel and different EQ settings and stuff like that. I know that the EQ on here is not the same as the amp, but I think that people really, they overestimate how important that is, especially on a modern amplifier where the EQ is after the gain stage. For the older ones where it's beforehand, then again, most of those only really have one or two really great settings, and it's normally with most of the EQ either halfway or all the way up. So, you know, for this kind of thing, this EQ on here, it's going to give you a perfectly usable solution to EQ. As I said, you're never going to own this amp because it's completely unique. There's only one of them anyway, so you don't need to worry so much about whether the EQ on here is the same. Free yourself, you know, from that concept and entertain me, if you will, and have a play with this as if it were an amp channel. And I think you'll find actually it's remarkably useful. So that's the clean channel as it stands. It's just a really nice sounding clean channel with not any real gain whatsoever going on. If you push it really hard, you can get it into blues territory, and we'll do that. I'll show you that in a sec. But that's pretty much the deal there. So on to the next one, and this is the crunch channel. So you could think of this sort of like a Marshall-esque type thing. Important to realize, the XL has the Infinium circuit in it, which means that you can change the power valves, power tubes, for those of you in the US. So I have actually got, at the moment, 6L6 GC tubes in here. You can put EL34s in there if you want to, and it sounds very different. I think there's enough EL34 stuff going on with us at the moment. It seems like everything we're doing is EL34 related. So I thought it would be fun for us to pop 6L6s in here and have this amp do its thing in that configuration. Probably we'll come back later and maybe, you know, do a full pack on it at some point, which will include both, or maybe we'll do the EL34 to give you both, as you'll have this one already. But bear that in mind. So a lot of the sounds that are a bit more British in nature, they're going to have that 6L6 grain to them, which is more Fender type sound. It's quite an interesting, combination, because you get like a bit of both, a bit of the American sound, a bit of the British sound at the same time. It's kind of interesting. So Crunch Channel, it's classic rock. With a bit of a 6L6, as I say, a bit of that grain to it. Just going to check my tuning, sounds a bit off. So the idea really here is that this channel gives you the in-between, you know, between that real clean and the lead channel, which is very more modern in sound. It's got several gain stages, and it's got something that would be more recognizable, I guess, from like, you know, a Soldano SLO 100 type thing, or, you know, a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier. Certainly they're the same preamp anyway, the same circuit as far as I'm aware. Different power stages maybe. But with the 6L6s, this has a slightly different flavor than you would get from a Marshall, for sure, because it's got that, like I said, I call it a kind of a grainy sound, but everybody has their own idea of how to describe it. A nice all-rounder for your classic rock type stuff. And the gain range on it is quite cool. It goes, you know, take it down to about -6, and it's going to get really into that old school crunch vibe, and then you can take it slightly more modern by adding more gain with the input control, and that works really well. Obviously you can push the speaker as well, which will give you vastly different flavor from the speaker. You start getting compression and distortion added there as well. So I'll show you a couple of sounds that do that, and you'll see how it's different. So that's the crunch, and then we got the lead channel, which is, as I say, the kind of modern channel. You get the idea. Really nice, modern, high gain, loads of gain, ridiculous amounts of gain. And you can take that as far as you want with the input control. The way that it's sat there is quite a high amount, even at 0, and you can take it right up to +10 or more if you want to without any change. I've said before, but I'll say again, just in case anybody thinks that the input control on your amp modeler works like it maybe does on some of the other modeling products, where it will kind of guess changes to the amp structure or add gain or add drive. It doesn't do that. It's literally just the input level control that goes into the plugin. So you can safely use it to, you know, add more gain from the amp because it's just putting more level in, just as it would be if you were using a clean boost or something in front. And it works really well for that. It doesn't modify the sound. And in fact, something identical to turning the gain knob up on the amp. So go ahead and use that in that way, and you'll find that it does what you want. Cool. So that's the kind of 3 basic sounds, the 3 effects presets you can hear. The clean one has a quite a nice chorus on it as well. The crunch has just a kind of a, you know, a room sound, give it a little bit of extra weight. And again, look, we'll just grab the EQ. I'm going to do this right now. Here we go. Turn it up a bit. I'll show you the same for the input gain. So that's what I was talking about. Let's add a bit on there. You can hear it doesn't change the sound, just adds extra input. Same taking it away. Totally transparent, just more or less input volume going into the plugin. So that's the basics there. We're going to get now into perhaps a couple of other sounds that show maybe some of the slightly more intricate interactions between the amp and the speaker, and show you again some of that versatility we were talking about, where just with these 3 profiles and your 3 effect presets, and of course the Quantum Speaker, which is a huge new tool in terms of getting, you know, different sounds from the same source, how we can kind of go through a few different genres and make stuff using just these basic tools, that is probably, you know, just as good as you would normally get if you had to sit there and wade through hundreds of impulse responses and amp profiles.
The thing is, you go through all those different amps, and it's like, it's if you just drop thinking about that amp sounds like this, and I have to get that, and I have to have this microphone, and just think of these as you can get that sound with these tools.
Change the knobs until it sounds how you want.
Yeah. And
when it sounds how you want, then there you are. I mean,
you've now got that flexibility to sit there and get that point where you actually feel it, connect.
It's a great amp. It's been modified by some of the finest techs that I've ever had access to. It's been recorded professionally in a great sounding room, you know, with great mics, and all that stuff has been done for you. All you need to do is turn these knobs until your eyes light up, and then you're there. Probably, you know, I say it's kind of a different take on what you're maybe used to with amp modeling, and certainly with impulse responses. So try it out. So here we go. Let's go through some of these others that I've got here. So I've got a container. I've got a container here. I'm running a Reaper, as you can see, but just to show you what I'm up to, I've just got a container with the elements you can see on the screen in it, and I've just created a bunch of presets that I'll go through by loading them here. They take a little time to load, so let's let them do that. Otherwise, make horrible noises if I play. So here we go. So this is a clean sound. Using the clean channel.
All the same app.
So yeah, it's all the same profile. 3 profiles: clean, crunch, and lead. The same 3 profiles. You can see though on the screen, if you look, that the EQ settings now are way different to the basic ones that we showed you, where they were all in the middle at 5. The input gain on both the speaker and the amp is being changed in order to get the behavior to work the way that I want. And you'll hear that these start sounding very different all of a sudden to the 3 channels that you just heard as they were. And this should start to unlock, hopefully, the notion that there's far more utility here than just normally you would get with 3 individual profiles. So let me play you this. I think I'll play you 4 notes and you'll know what I'm doing. That's all you need. So this is like kind of your classic clean, super clean. Again, with a bit of chorus on it, and I've used the reverb preset, I think, from the lead sound. And you know, fine. I mean, yeah, it does sound like obviously like the JC120 that was famous with all the kind of big heavy metal bands back in the 80s and early 90s, but it's also being really super clean. It's got that kind of I can't play any more of other people's stuff because I'm obviously going to get us copyright strike on the video. If I haven't already, it's difficult these days, and I have to stop myself because it's a natural thing to do. So yeah, there we go. That's kind of like I guess like you could call it a classic,
Keep your eyes on the knobs.
Thrash metal clean sound. Yeah, I mean obviously like the jazz chorus, there's no bass going on. You can see I've added just a bit of gain to the input of the speaker just to drive it a little and give it that little kind of slight compression from the speaker being a bit louder. The input gain you'll see is up as well on the clean channels to give the compression a bit of oof. Get some really kind of, you know, sort of compressed stuff going on there, especially when you feed it like a humbucker. It's got a lot more juice going in. So do play with that input control. You'll find that the compression on there it can be very nice when you get it just in the right place. And if you don't want it, then just turn that input gain right down and it'll go away. So there we go. That's one example. Let's take another clean sound. This one without the chorus on because we've got a lot of chorus going on. I do like it, but
bit more bass coming into this.
Yeah, so here we go. Different settings again. You see more input gain, so more compression coming in, and not so much on the speaker for this one. It's more a kind of neutral, I guess, a neutral clean sound that's good for single coils. Talking of single coils, should probably got some of that buzzing noise. So yeah, you get.
I want that room.
Yeah. Also, I guess you could use this as like a lead type of, like a, you know, Gilmore type. And then if you turn it on the chorus. Sorry, I had to.
Brilliant.
You get it.
Has to be done.
Yeah, so there we go. That's a great example of a kind of. So yeah, let's get some of this reverb off and get down into the more.
Ooh, it's interesting there. We've got some no bass on the amp.
So this is a kind of a more bluesy vibe, and we're creating the bluesy vibe here, not with overdrive from the amp. We're getting some compression from the amp, as you can see by turning the input gain up. But all the overdrive you're about to hear is coming from the speaker. We've gunned it like plus 13. And this is not like amp overdrive. It's a very different kind of thing. Speaker distortion is, it's quite smooth, and it's got like a less of a kind of angry edge to it. It's much more subtle, and it can be a little bit kind of fuzzy as well. Which kind of, but anyway, so in a blues context.
That sounds familiar. So evident where the compression is like.
Yeah, I mean, but what we're trying to do here is kind of get maybe the sound like an old, like a Fender Tweed type thing.
Very vintage.
Loads of mid-range.
Yeah.
It's a smaller amp as well, an old sort of 1x12 tweed or something like that. So it's going to have less bass. Typically, they weren't super bright either. It was all in the middle there. So you can see on both the amp and on the speaker, I've taken the low end away and left the middle pretty much neutral on the speaker. Quite a bit of it going on the amp as well, taking all the treble down on the amp. So it's all mid-range, driving into the speaker, which is reasonably neutral, but just tilted slightly to the bright end. And the input gain on the speaker is absolutely gunned, which is where all of that sort of saturation and the compression and some of the compression, there's compression on the amp as well, but
not
the speaker compression and...
Not something I've seen on an impulse response.
Yeah, no,
for sure.
they can't do that. There's no dynamics in impulse responses.
Yeah.
They are entirely linear. So what you would say about this behavior is actually very similar to the way that a tube behaves in an amp, right? And why we want non-linear profiles to model the amp itself. It's actually kind of the same reason why you would want them to model the speaker. It behaves in a very similar way. It's doing some sort of natural analog real world compression and overdrive or speaker distortion that can be captured in just the same way as that which is going on with the valves in the amp. So it's cool.
Strings. It's like a little mouse with a little set of bells just ringing beautifully in the right place.
The speaker and what it's doing, it's important to understand just how different this is to an impulse response, because there's ambience in the microphones of that speaker.
Yeah, it's what's coming back in.
Yeah, and of course the reactivity of the speaker being louder, compressing and distorting a little bit, and how that interacts with the sound of the room as well, and all of that being captured in this profile that then starts to become very realistic. I mean, to my ear, there's nothing in the world of impulse responses that even competes. It's all very
when you get it installed, if you've got an amp, great. If you don't have an amp, great. But you sit there with a little bit of volume, not too much volume. Look after it is. But you're like, I'm sat in a room with an amp and a speaker. It's epic.
Yeah, so, I mean, these are greenbacks. You can use them with almost anything. That's one of the nice things. But I mean, try and imagine this, if you can, like a speaker cabinet with an equalizer on it.
Yeah.
Which if you had, you would probably need far fewer speakers in your life, because, reason we changed speakers most of the time, they each have kind of a unique character, but it's mainly because one is brighter or darker or whatever, the kind of basic EQ quality of the speaker and its behavior. So, having that EQ on the speaker profile, it lets you take it an awfully long way. Now, clearly, having all the different mics and stuff is far superior to doing it all with EQ, but you'd be surprised just how good it can be. So anyway, next sound, let's move along. So yeah, onto the crunch channel. So this is kind of a classic rock. But slightly different, because that would be a Marshall, and those would have an EL34 power amp. This is 6L6s with the kind of Marshall style preamp sound. So it has this kind of slightly grainy quality and a different type of breakup that you don't get with an EL34. So it's kind of a nice alternative and something a bit different, maybe. So we can take that slightly beyond the ultimate classic. Slightly more kind of, I don't know, a bit more an 80s version of that. That's for you, Steve. Right. So you get the idea. Same kind of thing, but maybe pushed slightly away from the 70s, more into the 80s kind of Marshall sound. Again, with the 606 power stage, which I think makes it really interesting and different, and just something, a different flavor. And then final one for the crunch channel here is where we take it into the kind of
metal,
classic metal.
We have not forgotten you.
Yeah, I mean, actually, you know what? I say classic, but if you listen to a lot of the new stuff from those older bands, they're rediscovering these sounds, and they're going away from the modern amp channels and going back to the kind of classic ones, and running them with less gain, and playing hard, and you'll hear it. So this is the same channel. It's exactly the same channel you just heard.
Same channel, same amp, same speaker.
Yeah, this is the crunch channel that you've just heard do the kind of classic sort of AC/DC style thing, and the Billy Idol thing. Just different EQ, and you can see the settings in front of you. That's what's going on with the amp and the speaker. It's driven a bit harder on the input, so there's a bit more gain coming in. Bit of mid-range taken away, as you'd expect for a metal sound. Not all of it though, and certainly not any on the speaker side. A little bit of low end added on both of the amp and the speaker bass controls. It's important to understand they don't both do the same thing. So the reason why they're each having a little bit to say there is that the combined change is the one that I actually wanted. And as I say, take the mid-range away and make the preamp very bright, and you end up with that. There goes the copyright again. But so the same channel. There you go. You can see what I mean.
Don't need to buy another amp. You don't need to download another.
So far we've only gone through 2 profiles here. Okay.
Yeah.
Just 2. So here is the third channel. So this is the modern high gain channel, which is like, kind of, it's not the same, but it's definitely in the direction of a more SLO dual rectifier type of vibe. And I had it modified in that direction. Those are the two amps that I gave as the brief when I had the tech do it the first time and the second time, and I like the way that they got it at the end. But so this is kind of a rhythm sound. Whatever it is. I can't play anymore for legal reasons.
So big.
Big sound. Modern
so
sound.
Big. That's
I mean, this is kind of.
And
you'll notice as well, there's no pedals in these profiles. And people are obsessed with putting pedals in front of their amps when they profile them, and
making it unusable later.
Just choose a different amp, for God's sake, if that's what you want, because the what they do to the sound. There's a reason why a lot of people, when they record, a lot of bands when they record, the producers will encourage them, and I've certainly done this, not to use pedals with the amp when they record, because what they do is they put a layer between the playing and the audience. The pedal really stops the sound of the guitar getting through the amp, especially if it's something like a tube screamer, which really narrows down the frequency range. I mean, it's cool, don't get me wrong, but like, you shouldn't need it. You shouldn't need it in order to like the sound of the amp. So obviously the way that these channels have been modded, I've made sure that where focus is needed so that it's nice and tight, that's been done using the different, bright caps and stuff like that on the channels to make sure that you know, it's not flubby or whatever. This is supposed to be a versatile amp, so I want it to be good for every style. But there are no pedals here. Go right, so that's the modern channel. Here's a lead sound from the same channel, different settings again.
Yeah, it's blow your mind.
This one's a bit more neutral. You can see that there's just, you know, only 1 or 2, I guess, in the case of the treble dB of change. I'm taking gain away though, because this is a gain monster, but the speaker is absolutely nailed here.
Ooh,
so there's loads of speaker compression, but less gain on the amp. So, you know, it's louder, and that's kind of common in a recording environment. It's something that, again, I would encourage, having less gain on the amplifier to obscure the sound of the playing and the guitar less. But if you want that sort of, you know, compressed sound that helps you to play more easily, then you turn it up. You know, it sounds better and it does the job. And also it helps the guitar to react nicely with the amp. So we've kind of simulated that here by turning up the input gain on the speaker simulator and down on the amp, and you get this kind of, like, you know, really nice modern lead sound. This is also kind of, and I'm playing this guitar, so I'm allowed. It's got that kind of thing, kind of like the boosted sound. And again, it's just because it's got multiple gain stages, so it is boosted, but with valves, not with pedals, you know. And it's a versatile sound, and it's very more sort of modern amp design.
Yeah.
5150, you know, like I say, dual rectifier, SLO type of territory. Extra gain stages for sure. But it's a nice sound.
Your tuner was about to blow up. It was like, where do I go?
Poor tuner. So there we go. That's it for my little set of demo sounds. Hopefully you can see through what's going on with the settings there and hear that there's an awful lot of fun to be had playing around with this stuff. It is free, so no excuses. Get in there and have a play. Get yourself familiar with the idea of the Quantum Speaker concept with the Greenback composite file that's in there. And get yourselves ready for the real deal that's coming soon. Obviously, there'll be loads more info about that nearer the time, and full deep dives, and, you know, explaining all about how that's going to work as a pack. There is a white paper on the Quantum Speaker project, and, you know, the kind of about the research and the reasoning behind it all, which we'll put a link in the description for, as well as the video that we have that explains how you install the presets for the effects for Convology. So we'll put that in the links as well, and also where to get it and where to get NAMM if you don't have it already. And also we have a quick start guide that tells you how to install it all. So we'll put all of those links down there for you to get the info you need to get this up and running and play it. And let us know what you think. Stick some notes in the comments. Let us know what you think about Quantum Speaker and the concept. It's certainly going to be a fully featured thing when it arrives. The full version of this pack is going to have loads of mics and loads of positions and all kinds of things that you'll be able to do with the stuff that's included. So we just hope to get people into that idea and excited about the fact that it's coming. Finally, we have like now a proper actual speaker simulator that's capable of reproducing all the behavior and sound of a real speaker, and I'm really excited about it. And I think the only way really to get you guys to experience that is to give you this profile to play with and have your fun. So hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, this is, think of this like your palette, but there's more colors coming. And here's just two, but think of all the wonderful things that you can do with two. And like, as you've always said to me about with your ears and not your eyes, like you've seen some wonderful sounds today. You know what your sound's like, or you might be hunting for your sound. Just close your eyes. Don't focus on the things that you'd want and explore the sound. Like it's giving you that versatility.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah. I'm not insensitive to the fact there'll be loads of people watching this. If you're thinking, oh, you know, the Bugera that is a cheap amp. You know, they're not expensive. They're not boutique and this kind of stuff.
Just get on the sound.
Yeah, no, you're really missing the point.
You're going to go through different amps and different speakers. Like there, just physically, you're going to be playing that guitar, and you've got the like. I was out there 2 hours last night. You're playing, just going big, and you're going through the motions.
Allow yourself to not be so focused on what the sound was made from. Instead, just play with it and enjoy it for what it is, and interact with that sound, not on the basis of what the amp it was profiled from is, but just in terms of what you're hearing and what you're playing. And I think it's going to unlock a lot less complexity in your need to have, as I said, like this massive pit full of profiles that you have to wade through to find the one where the guy who made it had the same taste as you.
Yeah.
This has been made with the very specific notion that if you do it right and you do it with purpose, you can create a profile that allows the plugin to then become the amp's controls.
Yeah.
And that you can use it then like an amp and not be worried about, oh, you know, this gain knob doesn't behave like the real amp. These EQ knobs don't behave like the real. You'll never hear the real amp because, well, unless you come here and play it. So it doesn't matter. You can just use this and enjoy it for what you're hearing. And I'm hoping that kind of concept is something that can bring people a little bit less worry about, you know, whether or not that's something that they should be doing. It absolutely is. I can tell you I've played with it myself, and I have the real amp here. And I'm having every bit as much fun as I would when I'm recording it. So, you know, get in there and have a laugh. It's really just about that. It's a free thing. It's a little expo for us to show you Quantum Speaker, but also our slightly different take on making the models in the first place, that hopefully you'll enjoy. And as I said, any questions or comments, leave them in the section below. We'll read them and obviously respond and bear everything you're saying in mind for what we're up to next, which is obviously going to be hopefully very exciting for everyone. And if you haven't already, go check out the deep dive on the Van Halen pack for the producer series, because that's now released. It's out.
Out now. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. I'm Jack.
I'm Stuart.
This is Neutron One. Peace.